Brit. The execution platform stood in the center of the plaza, raised high so everyone could see it. It was made of black stone and cold metal, older than most of the buildings around it. Thousands of alien citizens filled the wide steps and balconies, their voices low and sharp, buzzing with judgment. Above them, tall banners of the ruling empire moved slowly in the dry wind. Brit. The alien girl was strapped to the platform. She was small compared to the guards around her. Brit. Her skin was a soft pale blue, marked with faint silver lines that glowed weakly under the sun. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with fear she did not try to hide. Metal restraints locked her thin arms and legs in place. They were too large for her body, as if they had been made for adults, not for someone so young. Brit. She did not scream. She had already done that earlier, until her voice broke and nothing came out anymore. Desperate A. Tall execution officer stepped forward. His armor was polished and sharp-edged, showing his rank. But he raised one clawed hand, and the plaza slowly grew quiet. "By the law of the High Circle," he announced, his voice amplified across the square, "this one is found guilty of genetic deviation, but her existence is a threat to order. Sentence: immediate execution." Breath. The girl's breathing grew fast. She turned her head, searching the crowd. Brit. Faces stared back at her, some cold, some curious, some afraid. None showed mercy. Brit. High above, on a wide platform reserved for foreign guests, a small group of humans stood among alien officials. They were part of a diplomatic escort, unarmed except for basic sidearms allowed by treaty. Brit. Their uniforms were simple compared to the Empire's armor. One of them, a human male named Aaron Cole, felt his hands tighten into fists. Brit. "This is wrong," he said quietly. The human commander beside him did not look away from the platform. Brit. "It's their law," she replied. "We're observers only." Brit. "She's a kid," Aaron said. "She hasn't done anything." The commander's jaw tightened. Brit. "I know, but we don't interfere." That's the agreement. On the platform below, the execution device began to power up. Brit. Thin lines of red energy formed around the girl, humming louder with each second. The sound made her flinch. Brit. She squeezed her eyes shut. Aaron's heart slammed against his ribs before, on battlefields, in ruined cities. But this was different. This was slow, public, proud. Brit. He took a step forward. "Aaron," the commander warned, her voice low. Brit. "Another step. If you move," she said, "you'll cause an incident." The execution officer raised his other hand. Brit. The energy field brightened. Aaron did not think anymore. Brit. He ran. Shouts erupted behind him as he vaulted over the railing of the observation platform. Desperate gravity pulled him down hard, but he rolled as he hit the stone steps and kept moving. The crowd gasped, then roared in anger and shock as the human sprinted straight toward the execution platform. Brit. Guards raised their weapons. "Stop," someone shouted in the Empire's language. Brit. Aaron ignored it. He leapt onto the platform just as the energy field reached full intensity. Brit. Without slowing, he threw himself forward and wrapped his arms around the girl, turning his body to shield her. The red energy field flickered. Brit. Then shut down. The plaza fell into stunned silence. Brit. Aaron stood there, breathing hard, his arms locked around the shaking alien girl. He could feel how light she was, how fast her heart was beating against his chest. Brit. "It's okay," he said softly, not knowing if she could understand him. "I've got you." For a long moment, no one moved. Desperate, then the execution officer stepped closer, his expression dark with fury. "Human," he said coldly, "you have violated sacred law." Aaron slowly turned to face him, keeping one arm around the girl. Brit. "You are about to kill a child." Brit. "She is a threat," the officer replied. Fear is irrelevant. Aaron shook his head. Fear is everything, and this, he gestured at the restraints, the platform, the silent crowd. This is murder. The crowd began to murmur again, louder this time. Brit. Some voices were angry. Others were uncertain. Alien guards surrounded the platform, weapons trained on Aaron. From the distance, human diplomats shouted, demanding explanations, trying to intervene with words instead of force. The officer raised a clawed finger. You will step away. Desperate, sentence will continue. Aaron did not move. No, he said, The single word echoed across the plaza. The girl looked up at him, her eyes wide. She did not understand his language, but she understood his tone. No one had ever stood like this for her before, pressed. No one had ever said no. The officer's eyes narrowed. You choose death, then? Then you'll have to explain to the galaxy why, Aaron replied, his voice steady now, why an empire killed a human who stood between you and a child. That gave the officer pause. High above, human communicators were already transmitting the scene. Millions across human space were watching live feeds as the image spread. One human, unarmed, standing on an alien execution platform, refusing to move. The execution officer clicked his mandibles softly, thinking, Restrain him, he ordered. Guards moved in. Aaron did not fight when they grabbed him. He slowly released the girl, whispering, Stay behind me. She did, pressing herself close to his back, her small hands gripping his uniform. Cold restraint snapped around Aaron's arms. Another set locked onto the girl again, but looser now, rushed, uncertain. The officer leaned close to Aaron's face. You have delayed the inevitable, he said. Nothing more. Aaron met his gaze. You're wrong. They were dragged from the platform together, past the angry crowd, into the shadowed corridors beneath the plaza. The noise faded behind them, replaced by the hum of alien machinery. They were thrown into a holding chamber made of smooth metal and dim light. The door sealed with a heavy clang. For a moment there was only silence. Then the girl slid down the wall, curling in on herself. Her breathing came in small, sharp gasps. Aaron knelt beside her slowly, careful not to scare her. He unlocked the emergency release on her restraints, something every human soldier knew how to do. The metal bands fell away. She stared at her freed wrists in disbelief. It's okay, he said again, softer now. Removed his own restraints as well, using the same trick. You're not alone. She looked at him for a long time, then slowly reached out and touched his hand, as if checking whether he was real. Her voice, when she spoke, was barely a whisper. Why? Aaron blinked. Desperate he hadn't expected her to speak his language, even brokenly. Why? You do that? She asked. He searched for the right words. Because it was wrong, he said simply, and because someone should have. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not let them fall. She straightened her back, copying his posture without realizing it. Outside the chamber, alarms began to sound, not emergency sirens, but communication alerts. Desperate messages were moving fast now. Too fast. The Empire had wanted a quiet execution. Instead, they had made a symbol. Bran leaned back against the wall, finally allowing himself to feel the fear shaking through his body. He had no idea what would happen next. Prison. Execution. War. But when he looked at the alien girl sitting beside him, alive, breathing, no longer alone, he knew one thing clearly. Jumping in had been the right choice, and whatever came next, the galaxy was already watching. The holding chamber felt colder as time passed. The metal walls reflected dim light, making the small space feel even tighter. Aaron sat with his back against the wall, knees bent, trying to stay calm. Across from him, the alien girl sat quietly, her legs pulled close to her chest. She watched him with cautious eyes, as if afraid he might disappear if she looked away for too long. Outside the chamber, heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor. Voices spoke in sharp tones, too fast and too technical for the girl to understand. Aaron caught fragments of words through the thick door, legal terms, warnings, and something that sounded like precedent violation. The door finally slid open with a low hiss. Two armed guards stepped inside, followed by the execution officer and a taller figure wearing robes instead of armor. This one moved slowly, with practiced calm. His eyes were old, calculating and curious. The guards raised their weapons but did not fire. The robed alien studied Aaron first. "You are the human who interrupted the sentence," he said. "Yes," Aaron replied. "You are aware," the alien continued, "that your actions place you outside diplomatic protection." "I figured," Aaron said. The robed alien's gaze shifted to the girl. "And you still chose to act?" "Yes." The alien tilted his head slightly. "Why?" Aaron did not answer right away. He glanced at the girl, then back at the robed figure. "Because killing her is wrong," he said, "and because watching it happen would have made me less than human." A murmur passed between the guards. The robed alien folded his hands behind his back. "Your species is known for emotional decisions," he said. "This confirms it." "Call it whatever you want," Aaron replied. "It doesn't change what you were doing." The execution officer stepped forward sharply. "High Judge," he snapped. "This human is dangerous. His presence alone has disrupted public order." The High Judge raised one hand, silencing him. His attention stayed on Aaron. "You understand," he said calmly, "that this child was sentenced under our highest law." "I understand your law," Aaron said. "I don't accept it." The girl flinched at the tension in the room. Aaron noticed and shifted slightly closer to her. A quiet, protective move that did not go unnoticed. The High Judge's eyes narrowed just a bit. "You are attached," he observed. "She's scared," Aaron said. "Anyone would be." The High Judge turned fully toward the girl now. "Do you know why you were sentenced?" he asked her. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Because, I am different." "Different how?" he asked. She lowered her eyes. "I make things heal, sometimes without touching them." A silence followed. The execution officer stiffened, desperate. "That is unregulated biological influence," he said sharply. "A destabilizing trait." The High Judge did not respond immediately. Instead, he looked thoughtful. "A rare trait," he said at last. Aaron's heart sank. He had hoped this revelation might help her. Instead, it seemed to make her even more dangerous in their eyes. The High Judge turned back to Aaron. "You see," he said, "why our law exists." "No," Aaron replied. "I see why you're afraid." The execution officer let out a harsh sound. "Enough," he snapped. "This human has already caused enough disruption. Execute them both and restore order." The High Judge raised his hand again. "No." The officer froze. The High Judge stepped closer to Aaron, his voice lowering. "The situation has changed, sir. Princess. This execution is no longer private. Human networks are broadcasting. Foreign observers are demanding explanation." He glanced at the girl once more. "We will not execute her now." The girl's eyes widened. Aaron felt a brief surge of relief, but it did not last. The High Judge continued. Both will be transferred to judicial containment, Britt. Their fate will be decided publicly. The execution officer's mandibles clicked in frustration, but he bowed his head. Britt, as you command. The guards moved forward again, this time with heavier restraints. Aaron stood slowly, keeping his hands visible. Britt. He did not resist as they locked bands around his wrists. The girl was restrained as well, but the high judge gestured sharply. Britt, loosen them, he ordered. She is not a threat. Reluctantly, the guards adjusted the restraints. As they were led down the corridor, Aaron leaned slightly toward the girl. You did good, he whispered. Britt, just keep breathing. She nodded, holding onto his sleeve with trembling fingers. They were placed in a transport chamber and lifted upward, deeper into the massive structure above the plaza. Round and desperate screens along the walls flickered to life, showing alien news feeds and, to Aaron's surprise, human broadcasts. His own face stared back at him from multiple angles. Britt. Human defies execution law, one headline read. Diplomatic crisis unfolding, another warned. Britt. The girl stared at the screens in silent fear. They are watching, she whispered. Britt, yes, Aaron said quietly. But that's not a bad thing. They were moved into a larger containment room, this one transparent on one side, allowing officials and observers to see inside. Britt, guards took positions outside, weapons ready but not raised. Inside, there was a bench, a water dispenser, and nothing else. Britt, hours passed. Officials came and went. Britt, questions were asked. Aaron answered calmly every time. Britt. He did not insult, he did not beg. Britt. He simply repeated the same truth. She didn't deserve to die. The girl stayed close to him, slowly growing less afraid as time passed. Britt, at one point, she reached for the water dispenser but hesitated, unsure how it worked. Aaron showed her. Britt. She smiled faintly for the first time. Outside the room, arguments grew louder. Britt. Some officials demanded immediate punishment. Britt. Others warned of human retaliation, not military, but economic, diplomatic, and cultural pressure that could destabilize entire systems. Then a new figure arrived. Britt. She was tall, with silver markings across her face that marked her as high-ranking. The guards straightened instantly. Brent, she studied the room carefully before speaking. This is the human? Yes, Overseer, a guard replied. Britt, and the child? Yes. The Overseer stepped closer to the transparent barrier. Human, she said, do you understand the position you have placed your species in? Yes, Aaron replied. Britt, then why remain so calm? She asked.
Aaron met her gaze.
Britt, because if I panic now, everything I did means nothing. The Overseer considered this. You are aware, she said slowly, that many in this empire want you dead. I know, and yet you still do not regret your action. No! She nodded once, as if confirming something. Britt, your species is difficult to predict, she said. Good, Aaron replied. Britt, a faint curve appeared at the corner of her mouth, almost a smile. She turned and addressed the gathered officials. Britt, prepare a public tribunal, she ordered. Let the galaxy hear the argument. The execution officer protested immediately, but he was ignored. Britt, as the Overseer left, the girl looked up at Aaron. Will they kill us? She asked quietly. Britt. Aaron took a deep breath. I don't know, he admitted, but we've already changed things. That matters. She thought about this, then leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. Britt, he stiffened at first, then relaxed, placing a steady hand on her back. For the first time since the plaza, she slept. Britt, outside the containment room. Messages continued to spread. Human leaders spoke carefully, firmly, demanding fairness. Britt, other alien species began asking questions of their own. The Empire had meant to show strength, Britt. Instead, it had revealed fear, Britt. And at the center of it all stood one human, one alien child, and a simple truth the galaxy could no longer ignore. Some laws deserve to be broken, and some lives were worth standing alone for. The public tribunal chamber was vast, built to impress and intimidate. Tall pillars curved upward into shadows, and glowing symbols of law floated slowly in the air. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by transparent barriers. Beyond them rows of alien officials, observers from other species, and remote holograms filled the space. Millions more watched through live broadcasts across the galaxy. Aaron stood on the platform with the alien girl beside him. She looked smaller than ever in such a large place. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, and her eyes darted from face to face. Aaron stood straight, shoulders squared, even though he felt the weight of every stare pressing down on him. A deep voice echoed through the chamber. "This tribunal is now in session!" The high judge appeared on an elevated seat, his image magnified above the platform. Around him sat other judges, their expressions unreadable. "The human known as Aaron Cole," the high judge said, "stands accused of violating imperial law, disrupting public order, and interfering with lawful execution." The execution officer stepped forward, his voice sharp and confident. "This human acted without permission, without authority, and without respect for our law. His behavior encouraged disorder and weakened our control." "Random mistreat," frowned in desperate. "You may speak when addressed," he told the officer, then turned his gaze to Aaron. "Human, do you deny these actions?" "No," Aaron said clearly. "I did all of it." A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. "You admit guilt," the high judge said. "I admit action," Aaron replied, "not guilt." The judges exchanged looks. "Explain," the high judge said. Aaron took a breath. He did not raise his voice. He did not argue with anger. He spoke the way he had trained himself to speak in dangerous moments, slow, steady, and honest. "You are about to execute a child," he said. "Not for something she chose, not for something she did to harm anyone, but for what she was born as. She is a biological threat," the execution officer snapped. Aaron turned slightly toward him. "So am I," he said. "So are you. Every living thing is a threat if you decide fear is more important than understanding." The officer bristled, but the high judge motioned for silence. "You place your judgment above imperial law," the high judge said. "Yes," Aaron answered. "I place life above it." The girl shifted closer to Aaron, her fingers brushing his sleeve. Desperate, he felt it and did not move away. One of the judges leaned forward. "Human," she said. "Do you understand the risk this child represents?" "I understand what you believe," Aaron said. "But belief without proof is just fear wearing armor." The judge's eyes narrowed. Bold words from a prisoner. Aaron nodded. "True. But they're still true." The high judge turned his attention to the girl. "Child," he said, his voice lower now, "demonstrate your ability." Her eyes widened in alarm. She shook her head quickly. Aaron stepped forward half a pace. "Desperate, no," he said. "She's not a weapon." She doesn't perform on command." The execution officer scoffed. "Convenient." The high judge studied Aaron for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Very well," he said. "We will observe without coercion." A small drone floated into the chamber and hovered near the girl. Its surface was cracked, its energy unstable, damaged on purpose. The girl stared at it, breathing shallowly. Aaron crouched slightly so he was closer to her eye level. "You don't have to do anything," he said quietly. "No matter what." She swallowed. But then, slowly, she reached out, not touching the drone, just holding her hand near it. A faint glow spread from her fingers. The drone's cracked surface sealed itself. The unstable energy smoothed, then stabilized. Pressed. Within seconds, the damage was gone. A collective gasp filled the chamber. She heals, the execution officer said tightly. Exactly as stated. She repairs, Aaron corrected. There's a difference. The high judge leaned forward. This ability, he said to the girl. How long have you had it? Since I was small, she answered softly. Round and desperate, and you have harmed no one with it? She shook her head. I only wanted to help. The chamber grew quiet again. Aaron straightened. You see, he said, she's not a threat. She's a resource, a healer. And more importantly, she's a person. One of the judges spoke up. If such abilities spread uncontrolled, they won't, Aaron said. Not unless you force them underground. You create danger by refusing to understand. The overseer from before stepped forward now, her voice carrying authority. Human, she said, your species has fought wars over less. Yes, Aaron replied, desperate. And we learned the hard way what fear costs. She regarded him carefully. And you believe we should learn from you? I believe, Aaron said, that you're at the same point we once were. Silence followed, not angry silence. Thinking silence. Desperate across the galaxy, viewers leaned closer to their screens. The execution officer broke it. This is irrelevant, he said sharply. The human overstepped. Punishment is required. The high judge nodded slowly. Perhaps, he said, but punishment must serve purpose. He looked directly at Aaron. Human, if released, would you repeat your actions? Aaron did not hesitate. Yes. A stir moved through the chamber. The high judge's eyes narrowed. Even knowing the cost? Yes. Why? Aaron looked down at the girl, then back up. Because some lines shouldn't exist. And if they do, someone has to cross them first. The girl squeezed his hand. The judges withdrew briefly, their images dimming as they conferred. The chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. Guards remained tense, unsure. Minutes passed. Finally, the judges returned. The tribunal has reached a decision. The high judge announced. Aaron felt his heartbeat slow, steady. Whatever happened, he had said what needed to be said. Desperate, the execution sentence is suspended indefinitely, the high judge said. The child is no longer marked for termination. A sharp wave of reaction swept the chamber. The girl gasped, her eyes filling with tears. Aaron let out a slow breath he hadn't realized he was holding. But the high judge continued, the human's interference cannot go unanswered. Aaron nodded once. The human will be detained, the judge said, pending diplomatic resolution. The execution officer smiled thinly. And the child? Aaron asked. She will be placed under protective custody, the high judge replied. Until a long-term decision is made. The girl's relief faded. Separated, she whispered. Aaron turned to her. Hey, he said gently, this isn't the end. Okay? She searched his face, fear rising again. You promise? He smiled softly. I don't make promises I can't keep. But I won't stop. She nodded slowly. As guards approached, the overseer raised a hand. One condition, she said. The high judge looked at her. Speak. The child remains under human observation, she said. The human has demonstrated restraint, not chaos. The execution officer protested loudly. but the overseer did not back down. After a tense moment, the High Judge nodded. Agreed. The girl was allowed to stay near Aaron as they were escorted away. Not dragged, not restrained harshly. Brit. Across the galaxy, reactions exploded. Humans praised courage. Desperate other species questioned old laws. Even within the Empire, doubt had taken root. Brit. As they were led down a quiet corridor, the girl looked up at Aaron. "You didn't leave," she said. Brit. "No," he replied. "And I won't." Behind them, the Empire's image of absolute control had cracked. From desperate, not from violence, but from one human choosing to stand, speak, and refuse to look away. Brit. The days after the tribunal passed slowly, each hour heavy with uncertainty. Aaron and the alien girl were placed in a secure observation wing within the Imperial city. Brit. The rooms were stark, metal walls, minimal light, and small furnishings, but far better than the holding chambers beneath the execution platform. Guards were present, but their demeanor had changed. Brit. They were no longer openly hostile, only watchful, as if unsure what a human might do next. The girl explored the room cautiously, her small fingers brushing over the cold surfaces, her eyes wide and alert. Brit. Aaron sat on the edge of a bench, watching her, keeping a calm presence. "You can touch it," he said, nodding toward the metal table she had examined earlier. "Round and desperate. Nothing here is going to hurt you." She hesitated, then tentatively ran her hand across the smooth surface. "It's cold," she whispered. "Brit, cold but harmless," Aaron said. He smiled faintly. "Brit, like me most of the time." A soft, uncertain laugh escaped her. For the first time in days, it was a sound that was not fear or pleading. Brit. Aaron allowed himself a small grin, feeling a sliver of relief. Outside, the city moved on as if nothing had happened, but the palace was alive with quiet tension. Her imperial leaders debated endlessly about how to handle the situation. The public tribunal had left them exposed, the humans' actions now a symbol across the galaxy. But other species, and even human governments were watching closely, judging every move the Empire made. Brit. The overseer visited daily, her calm silver eyes assessing both human and alien child. One afternoon she arrived with a small delegation of scholars and healers from other worlds. Brit. "You have a rare biological trait," she said gently to the girl. "You can heal." Brit. "That is unusual, even for your species." "I only fix things that are broken," the girl said softly, her voice steady. Brit. Aaron glanced at her, then at the overseer. "She doesn't need to perform for anyone," he said. "Brit, she doesn't owe the Empire anything." The overseer studied him for a long moment. "Few humans would act as you did," she said. "Brit, most would flee. Most would obey." "Brit, I couldn't," Aaron said simply. The scholars observed the girl carefully, taking notes and murmuring among themselves. Brit, they asked questions about her abilities, her past, her upbringing. The girl answered with honesty and caution, guided subtly by Aaron's presence. "Brit healed that drone," Aaron said softly, nodding toward a small, hovering device on the table that had been damaged the day before. "See? Down dangerous." One of the scholars, a tall, thin being with translucent skin, nodded slowly. "Brit, curious," they said. "This human may have saved her, but she saved something else as well. The Empire's understanding." Brit, their fear blinded them. Aaron shook his head. "Fear never helps anyone. Brit, only courage, and standing up when it counts." Over the following days, the girl and Aaron grew closer, not by choice, but by circumstance. In the quiet of the observation wing, they shared stories. Brit, she spoke of her childhood, of the small experiments she had done in secret to heal injured animals or broken machines. He spoke of his own world, of battles fought and victories earned, but also of mistakes and lessons learned. Desperate. Your people fight with more than weapons, she said one evening, her eyes shining with curiosity. They fight with courage, with will. Aaron smiled, and sometimes with stubbornness, he added. Her lips curved slightly in a small smile. For the first time in weeks, there was no fear in her expression, only interest and wonder. Outside, political tension mounted. Reports from orbit indicated that human diplomats were making careful moves. Messages were sent, channels opened, all demanding fair treatment for the child and her human protector. The Empire's leaders found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Public opinion, both internal and external, now weighed heavily against them. The High Judge convened a secret council to discuss options. Some argued for transferring the child to a distant colony, away from human influence. Others, more cautious, suggested keeping her under watch while negotiating terms with human authorities. All agreed on one point. Aaron had changed the rules, whether they liked it or not. One evening, a disturbance shook the city. A group of activists, alien citizens sympathetic to the child, attempted to approach the palace. Desperate guards intercepted them quickly. But news of the attempt spread across networks. Aaron watched the reports with the girl by his side. They're scared of her, she said softly. Even some of them. Aaron placed a hand gently on her shoulder. People fear what they don't understand. That's why we're here, to show them it's okay to be different. The next day, Aaron and the girl were summoned to meet with the overseer in a larger chamber. The space was filled with sunlight streaming through tall windows. The room smelled faintly of metal and polished stone. You have been under observation, the overseer said. And you have behaved with restraint, wisdom, and patience. Both of you. The girl glanced at Aaron. He gave her a reassuring nod. Your actions have not only protected the child, the overseer continued, but they have also prevented further instability within the Empire. Many feared this situation could spark rebellion, not just here, but among our allies. Aaron raised an eyebrow. So, we've saved your empire by standing still? Not by standing still, she corrected. By standing firm in the right choice, That is something many of our leaders struggle to do. The girl tilted her head, studying Aaron's face. You're brave, she whispered. Aaron shook his head. I'm not brave. I just couldn't leave you there. Simple as that. The overseer leaned forward slightly. There is a choice before you both now. The tribunal has decided that the child will remain under protective observation, but further exposure to humans will be determined by diplomacy. You, human, may remain nearby, but only under supervision and with restrictions. Aaron clenched his fist slightly. Restrictions, he said flatly, are fine. As long as I'm allowed to keep her safe. The overseer nodded once. That is acceptable, under strict conditions. The girl exhaled slowly. Relief washed over her, though she did not fully allow herself to show it. You didn't leave, she said again. I told you, Aaron replied softly. I'm not going anywhere. In the following days, the pair adapted to their new routine. Guards and scholars came and went. The girl continued to explore her abilities quietly, showing only what was necessary and under careful guidance. Aaron maintained a steady presence, speaking calmly to officials, mediating misunderstandings, and quietly advocating for the child. One morning, an unexpected message arrived from orbit. Human ships were stationed near the planet, not as a threat, but as a reminder. They were watching closely. The message was simple, clear, and firm. Any harm to the child or the human protector will result in consequences. Aaron read it aloud to the girl. See, you're not alone, he said. Her eyes widened. They are watching? Yes, he said. But that's a good thing, Brit. Means someone cares. As days passed, the Empire began to understand something new. Humans were not only willing to act for justice, but they also had networks, influence, and a determination that could not be ignored. This realization began to change the way officials treated Aaron and the girl. They were no longer just prisoners. They were a statement, a reminder of something bigger than fear. Aaron and the girl walked through the palace gardens one afternoon. The sun was low, casting long shadows. She moved carefully, touching flowers and strange alien plants, her face lighting up at every new color. Brit, you've never seen flowers like this before? Aaron asked. No, she said softly. Brit, they are beautiful. Brit, he smiled. Just like you. Brit, you're different, but that's what makes you special. She looked up at him, her eyes serious. Do you really believe that humans, Brit, are strong? Aaron considered. Strength isn't just about fighting, he said. Brit, it's about standing for what's right, even when the whole world is against you. That's what makes us strong. She nodded slowly, as if understanding more than just the words. Brit, for the first time, she felt not just safe, but protected. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting gold and violet across the sky, Aaron realized that their journey was far from over. The tribunal had bought time, the Empire had paused, and the galaxy was watching, but the danger had not vanished. Yet, as he looked at the alien girl standing beside him, he knew this. Courage, honesty, and steadfastness could change more than just one life. Brit. They could change an entire system, and they would face whatever came next together. Brit, the Empire could wait. The galaxy could watch. Brit. And for the first time in her life, the alien girl understood that someone truly had her back. No one could take that away. Not the Empire, not fear, and not time. The future had shifted, and it owed its first debt to one human who refused to look the other way. The day of the final tribunal arrived with a tense calm. Brit. The city seemed quieter than usual. The streets swept clean, the banners of the Empire hanging stiffly in the wind. Every corner of the Imperial Palace was busy, officials moving quickly, guards on edge, scholars and diplomats whispering urgently. Brit. Outside, human ships orbited the planet, a silent but unmistakable reminder. The galaxy was watching. Inside the tribunal chamber, Aaron and the alien girl were escorted to the platform once more. Brit. The girl clutched his hand tightly, her small fingers entwined with his. Aaron gave her a reassuring squeeze. Brit. She drew comfort from his presence, as she had from the moment he had first jumped onto the execution platform days ago. The chamber was larger now, filled with more officials, more observers, and an audience broadcast across multiple star systems. Brit. The atmosphere was electric, the air charged with anticipation. Even the guards seemed uneasy, shifting from foot to foot as if the weight of the entire empire rested on the moment. Brit. The High Judge's voice echoed through the chamber. This tribunal convenes to determine the final judgment regarding the human and the child. We will proceed with caution and fairness. Aaron looked at the girl. Whatever happens, he whispered, we face it together. She nodded, her eyes wide but determined. Together, she echoed. The execution officer stepped forward, his claws clicking sharply against the stone floor. Brit. High Judge, he began. This human has interfered with Imperial law. His actions cannot go without consequence. Brit. And the child, he added, gesturing toward her, remains a potential destabilizing factor. We must act decisively. Brit. Aaron straightened. Potential is not the same as harm, he said firmly. Brit. She has done nothing to deserve this. Brit. The High Judge lifted a hand, silencing the officer. We will hear arguments carefully. Human, you may speak. Aaron took a breath and stepped slightly forward. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. Brit. I am not here to argue with the law. I am here to argue with fear, with cruelty, and with injustice, Brit. This child was about to die because she is different. That is not law. Brit, that is choice. And it is a choice that is wrong. A murmur rippled through the chamber, Brit. Some officials whispered nervously to each other. Others seemed unsure how to respond. The alien girl clutched his hand tighter, and he felt her trembling. Brit, she is not a threat, Aaron continued. She has a gift, yes, but gifts are not crimes. Brit, they are tools for life, for healing, for progress. And more importantly, she is alive, Brit. She deserves a chance to live, just like any other being in this galaxy. The High Judge's eyes lingered on the girl. And yet, he said slowly, you risk your own life for her. Why? Aaron looked at her, then back at the judges. Brit, because some things are worth standing for. Because life itself is worth protecting, Brit. And because, if someone must act when the world is wrong, it might as well be someone willing to do what's right, even if it costs everything. A silence filled the chamber, Brit. The execution officer's jaw tightened, his mandibles clicking in irritation. Several judges leaned forward, whispering quietly to each other. It was clear that Aaron's words had struck a chord. One of the observers, a diplomat from a neighboring star system, spoke up. Brit, the humans' actions demonstrate courage, compassion, and reason. If humans are to be judged by this standard, perhaps the galaxy has underestimated them. Aaron's eyes flicked to the girl, Brit. She was looking at him, her large, dark eyes shining with admiration and something like hope. The High Judge stood. Brit, we have listened to the arguments. We have observed the actions, Brit. It is now clear that this child's existence does not threaten the Empire in any way that justifies her death. Nor does the humans' interference indicate recklessness. On the contrary, it has prevented injustice and showcased the value of life. The execution officer snarled under his breath, but the High Judge raised a hand. Brit, this tribunal concludes the following. The child shall remain under protective observation, with guidance from those who respect her abilities and her life. Brit, the human shall continue to remain at her side as her protector, under agreed supervision, until her safety can be fully ensured. Both shall be free from further immediate threat. The chamber erupted in whispers, some shocked, others relieved. The execution officer stepped back, defeated, while the overseer nodded slightly, satisfied that balance had been restored. Aaron knelt down beside the girl, letting go of her hand only to brush the hair from her face. It's over, he whispered. Brit, you're safe. She smiled faintly, tears brimming. Thanks to you, she said softly. Brit, no, Aaron replied. Thanks to us, Brit. We didn't let them take it away. For the first time in days, the girl allowed herself to relax. Desperate, she looked around at the chamber, at the officials, at the audience, and then back at Aaron. Humans are strong, she said quietly. Brit. Aaron chuckled softly. Not because we fight better, he said, but because some of us are willing to stand when it matters. Brit, that's what makes us strong. The chamber cleared slowly as the proceedings ended. Aaron and the girl were escorted back to their observation wing, where the environment now felt lighter, more hopeful. Brit guards no longer treated them like prisoners, but as beings whose value had been demonstrated, whose courage had been witnessed. Outside, the human ships maintained orbit, a reminder that the galaxy had eyes and ears on this small corner of the universe. Desperate messages poured in from human officials, praising Aaron's courage and emphasizing that they would continue to watch, ready to act if needed. Brit, the alien girl, explored the room slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, even the floor, as if to confirm that it was real, that she was truly free. Aaron followed her, giving her space while remaining close enough to offer protection. But that tribunal, she said finally, turning to him. Did it change things? Aaron considered the question. Some laws, he said, cannot change until someone shows them the right way. Brit, today we did that. Tomorrow, maybe others will too. The girl's eyes sparkled with understanding. Brit, so it wasn't just about me. No, Aaron said gently. It was about life, about standing for what's right, about showing the galaxy that some things matter more than fear or power. As the sun set outside the palace, painting the sky in streaks of violet and gold, the girl sat beside Aaron. He watched her quietly, noticing the first real signs of a smile that wasn't forced. Brit, you didn't have to jump in, she said softly. You could have waited. You could have left. I couldn't, he said simply. And I wouldn't. She looked at him for a long time, her gaze filled with something like awe. Brit, I understand, she whispered. Days turned into weeks. Brit, Aaron continued to accompany the girl, teaching her about patience, observation, and calmness, while she slowly learned to trust the galaxy beyond her fear. The officials around them began to respect them, seeing not only the human's courage but also the girl's quiet strength. Brit. Then came the moment that changed everything. Reports arrived from multiple worlds. Humans were sharing the story, not as a warning, but as an example. Ross, his species began to understand that humans could act with compassion, courage, and moral clarity. Grasp that had tried to enforce fear now faced a new reality. Humans would not only intervene, but inspire. One afternoon, the overseer approached Aaron and the girl in the palace gardens. Brit, your presence here has done more than prevent death, she said. You have shifted perspectives, not just here, but across the stars. Brit, this is a rare accomplishment. The girl looked at Aaron. Brit, we did it, she whispered. Aaron shook his head. Brit, you did it, he said. I just made sure no one stopped you. For the first time, the girl felt the weight of her freedom, the depth of her safety, and the power of being seen not as a threat, but as a life worth protecting. Brit. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the gardens, Aaron realized something profound. Courage is contagious, but caution is transformative. One human standing for life could ripple across an empire and beyond, changing minds and hearts far greater than any weapon ever could. Desperate. The empire had survived its fear. The girl had survived her trial. Brit and humanity, once underestimated, had shown its truest strength, the willingness to act for what is right, no matter the cost. As Aaron looked at the girl, now walking freely among the alien plants and sunlight, he knew one thing. Their journey was far from over. But whatever came next, they would face it together, and the galaxy had learned something that could never be forgotten. No longer was it just a story of a human saving a child. Desperate. It was the story of what humanity could be, of what courage and moral clarity could achieve, and of the truth that one choice could change the fate of many. Brit. And in that moment, the alien girl understood completely. She owed her life to one human. But she had also been given a glimpse of what a galaxy filled with such courage could become. Brit. Together they walked forward into the uncertain future. Not as prisoners, not as symbols, but as living proof that even in a world ruled by fear, hope could thrive.